Welcome back. You're still on to TVC News. Well, let's cross over to the National Collation Center at Abuja, where my colleagues Nifemi and Precious are standing by to give a recap of the election results announced so far. So first off, let me begin with you, Nifemi. I can see that it's quite a tiring one for you this few hours, or few times rather, you've been at the Collation Center. So briefly give us a recap of what has been like for you and the team.
Well, it's been a long day, Esther, not only for journalists, but Nigerians across board who have been waiting tirelessly to ensure that they see the end to this particular exercise, which started as far back as February last year when INEC issued its notice for this election. It's day 2 of the collation right here at the National Collation Center in Abuja. I'm here with Precious. It's been a long wait for many journalists here.
And you know, one of the most important thing to say here today is the fact that we're a long, or a far cry away from where we were yesterday, or a long way away from where we were yesterday. Just one state yesterday, Ekiti.
Indeed.
And today we've now taken 14 states. INEC has now announced 14 states, which means 13 states were announced today, which
Indeed.
is quite impressive.
So we're left with 22 plus the FCT.
Yes, which is quite impressive. It means that, you know, some more states most likely will be here tomorrow. We understand that most states are now done with their collation in their own states, and so hopefully they will be here tomorrow. But I also know that sometimes the distance between those states and INEC, and Abuja rather, you know, it's a lot. You have to book the logistics to also get them here. But hopefully we can take more states tomorrow, or get the announcement from more states tomorrow.
We're at Ekiti on the first day of the collation. We're added 13 today. And as long as all those results are collated, it would seem that the process of having these results collated and announced doesn't take so far. But earlier today...
It doesn't, actually.
Yes, it doesn't at all.
Yes.
Earlier today, it was quite dramatic when we saw some party agents contest the procedure and the way and manner the INEC has gone about collating this result. They were of the opinion that they needed the IREF to work. That is the portal on which results are expected to be updated by INEC. They're of the opinion that that should happen before collation. But the INEC chairman kept insisting that if there are discrepancies in figures, particularly for parties who had agents on the ground, they should bring it forth, and that they were ready to consider it. And he's also promised that by tomorrow he would make a national address as to how the IREF has performed.
Let's also note that the political parties are not just responding within the 4 walls of this hall alone. We've seen several press conferences being held by these political parties. Some are saying, look, we're contesting these results. We do not agree with this result. We want to see what's on IREF. While, you know, the ruling party is saying, oh, look, we're fine by whatever INEC says, and we're calling for calm. So different reaction coming from different political parties. It's not the first time that we're seeing things like this in our polity. Election results are always contested, but one of the things that is very critical to note at this moment is that we already have individuals, notable individuals within the country, who are saying, let's call for calm, because we do not want to heat up our polity. It's not the first time we're having elections. Hopefully not going to be last time we're having elections. And so it's very pertinent and very important. I think I was speaking to someone earlier, and I was asking Amayo, a political editor, I was asking him, how important is it that we begin to hear this message from political parties, not just the political parties, the candidates themselves, calling for their supporters to calm down. We saw a report earlier, I think that was in Kano, where we heard about some fracas in a particular polling unit. And so it's very important at this moment to call for calm. Like you said, INEC said it will address the issue of the IREF.
Absolutely. I also spoke with a domestic observer earlier who actually intervened at the time when some party agents wanted to disrupt the proceedings of the coalition earlier, insisting that the IREF portal works before the INEC chairman takes the results from this state. He stood up and asked for calm and saying that they should allow the process to go on. I spoke with him later on, and he was of the opinion that it's important to allow peace at such a time like this. Eventually, these aggrieved party agents walked out of the facility. A few of them were told eventually came back, but there's this discrepancy in the figures. Those who walked
those
out
who were contesting
are
elections
claiming,
and those who were staying with us.
yes, they were claiming that there were up to 10, but while the proceeding was on, we heard quite a number of other party agents who stood up to say, we believe in this process, we are going to stay and wait it out, and we did not walk out.
And I remember when the domestic observer who stood up and said, look, let's be patient with INEC. I remember whilst he was doing that, there was a silent whisper from around who somebody said, oh, the hero of the moment, because that was really, really, he saved the moment because it was becoming rowdy. He really saved the moment. And that is worth noting that, look, it's one of the roles of he's also a member of the CSO community, very notable for CSOs to also begin to say, look, let's be patient. And that's the good thing we're also hearing from the CSOs. As much as some of them also have that notion that, look, let's see what's on the IREV, but they've also said, let's be patient with INEC. Let's be patient with the process. There is a law in place. There is an opportunity to contest whatever we disagree with at the end of this. And so it's also important to note that. But one of the things that is also, we should also note, again, I think you've said it earlier, is the fact that INEC is going to address, and I'm very sure that all ears will be on ground just to hear what INEC has to say about that.
In 2015, the result came in on Wednesday. In 2019, we had the result on Tuesday. Today is Tuesday or Monday?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday. You just get to miss out.
We've been walking through the weekend, so it looks like
so
Wednesday.
In 2 days, we've had 14 states collated, and we're looking forward to what happens tomorrow. The INEC chairman says the collation will commence at 11. However, we must mention that INEC has never kept to time in all of the collations that we've had in the past few days.
I think we said that earlier.
Yes.
We know that they are waiting for more states to come. But, it's just always funny every time they say 11, everybody goes, because we know that it might not happen at that time. But we're hoping that more states come in tomorrow, just so that I think the more results come in, the earlier this is done with, it might also help with the tension a bit, ease the tension a bit, the more states will have.
Stakeholders here are calling for calm, and they are saying that it's important that Nigerians, or particularly stakeholders who are aggrieved, should take the option of the tribunal in addressing all of this. INEC is saying that the beavers worked well for this election, and it provides evidence for any grievances that have arisen from this exercise.
I think I saw a report earlier, that's by Yaga Africa. I think they had mentioned that the beavers worked, I hope I'm quoting them correctly, I think about 80% of the polling units that they had observed, it worked 80%. If you look at 80%, it's not a bad mark. It just means that 20% didn't quite work. But they also talked about issues around security and logistics. For them, logistics was, a major problem, major challenge for them. And they are talking about how, they're surprised that even how many years later was he having to deal with logistics issues. A lot of domestic and foreign observers are already coming up with their preliminary reports. We were talking about that, I think, 2 days ago, that we're going to see more preliminary reports. And that also helps in improving on the process.
Indeed. Again, INEC is saying that it is not constricted by law to use the IREV portal for its collation. And it's saying that the essence of that portal is for transparency and accountability. It had released a press release earlier yesterday acknowledging that the portal itself was a little bit slow and unsteady. It took responsibility for that delay, and the INEC chairman says that he will address these issues tomorrow. But according to the Independent National Electoral Commission, it doesn't need these updated figures to be able to collate results right here at the ICC.
And I'm sure, as with every other law in the country, whether it's in the Constitution, whether it's in different acts, or whether it's in the Electoral Act, we're going to see legal interpretation of this particular. I think they've been quoting a particular section of the Electoral Act, in fact, different section of the Electoral Act. And I'm sure that, we have a very vibrant legal community in the country. And I'm sure right now every lawyer will try and interpret that, how they understand it. And so as we put all of that interpretation together, it gives a more robust understanding of the Electoral Act. I mean, this is an Electoral Act that was signed just February last year. The president ascended to the Electoral Act February last year. And, some of the things that people were saying that, look, we've not had enough time to study the Electoral Act. In fact, it created problems in the primaries. If you remember, there are problems within the primaries while some people were trying to interpret it. And people had already said, look, a lot of analysts have said this was going to be a challenge. Interpreting the Electoral Act was going to be a challenge because you just assented to the Electoral Act and having to use it, in the general election just barely a year later.
It's better to know that it is work in process. In progress. You also have had some reaction from foreign observers who have talked about the need to empower INEC the more to be able to enforce, the provisions of this law and also prosecute particularly those who err in some significant areas of this act. However, I am looking forward to INEC's explanation tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I think it will also help Nigerians to understand what went wrong with the IREV. Recall that in the off-cycle elections we had last year, we had close to 90% of this election results uploaded even as early as 10 p.m. on election day. It's important that we pay attention to what's happening here and also, invest a little bit of trust in the process as well as the efforts of the Electoral Commission.
14 states announced already, 22 more to go, and the FCT will be back here at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Hopefully. It's actually 11 a.m. tomorrow and not 1:45 p.m. Nifemi, it's quite funny, but that's how it's been.
Indeed.
We hand over back to the Lagos studio.